ING Belgium senior economist Carsten Brzeski. Carsten, I love your analogy, trying to reanimate a dead horse. Does it mean that you have little hope of them actually getting anything done today in preparation for that all-important 9th of December summit?
I think they will agree on these leverage options for the rescue fund for the EFSF. But that's the whole thing. This is yesterday's story, because we all know that the leverage options, even if they are agreed, will not work. It's not the big bazooka. It's at best a richly filled water pistol.
Yeah, and actually, Carsten, the EFSF, we're now talking about possible credit downgrades. They're so much concerned about the ratings. Yesterday, there were reports about these elite bonds, which then were denied by the German finance ministry. But if they did have these elite bonds, would they be more important, actually almost take over the EFSF bonds?
I think with the elite bonds, if it would work, you would have at least a huge volume, and you could have a bazooka. At the same time, you could implement this conditionality, which means the AAA countries would give loans to the peripheral countries against more austerity measures, against or at the price of more structural reforms. So this could work.
And so what exactly are we expecting out of today and also out of the December 9th? Some kind of agreement on fiscal union and also a little bit of technicalities on the next tranche of money to Greece? Or are they going to start discussing bigger things, the elephant in the room, this possible bailout for Italy, which, of course, we're not saying it needs it, but if you look at the yield levels, they just keep on rising.
I think we would at least need, and that's what would happen today, an agreement on the tranche for Greece. We will get an agreement on these two leverage options for the EFSF, and I hope that we get more, let's say, groundworks done for the 8th and 9th of December, more steps, really concrete steps towards a fiscal union, and I'm afraid another beefing up of the rescue fund, because the two leverage options for the EFSF will not work.
Now, Barroso was in the States yesterday saying we are absolutely serious about the magnitude of the challenge. We understand the challenge. Do EU leaders understand exactly what they're facing at this point?
I think right now, for the first time, they do. And I think they also know that there is only one way out, and that's the way out towards more fiscal integration, towards a fiscal union. And at the same time, I think they still need to understand that the current rescue fund will not be enough. They have to work on it. But I'm positive that they won't find the ultimate solution, but they will find another important solution in December.
You know, Carsten, I speak to you quite often, and we always talk about this, about the fact that actually the markets are at one speed and the democracies are at another. Even if they come to an agreement about fiscal tightening and fiscal policy, you know, better integrated fiscal policies, if we look at Italian yields, we need something much more concrete. You're talking about a bazooka. What is it going to take for Europe or someone else, China, the US, to actually step in and give us the lift we need before someone needs either a bailout or actually there's a default?
I think it's very hard, because we cannot take away the burden from the Italian government to do more austerity measures, to do structural reforms. But I think we should get used to the idea that spreads within the Eurozone will be higher than we were used to. That's the first step. And the other thing is, of course, to regain confidence in the Eurozone. And this could be done really with an unconditional lender of last resort, with a filled bazooka and a clear commitment towards a fiscal union. I think if we get these elements, we would be a step further.
Despite the fact that we're seeing also much more pressure on banks, Moody's just saying that actually it's considering downgrading 15 European nations. That not would only put pressure on banks, on the banking sector, but also, of course, on the governments that potentially have to bail them out.
Of course it will put pressure. And of course, I think we all should be aware of the fact that even if we get another nice comprehensive package in December, it won't be the end of the crisis. This is something we're in an age of austerity, and this is going to take years before we really get out of the economic consequences of the current crisis. It could be faster that we get out of the institutional problems of the current crisis.
All right, Carsten, great to speak to you as always. Carsten Brzeski there, ING Belgium senior economist.